just like that awareness that it's like it's an ocean.
Right.
Like, just relax and like take it one step at a time, because the better your foundation is, the better your hand strength is and your finger control is, it's only going to make you that much better. Like last year, working on the Springsteen movie, they asked me if I would teach Jeremy Allen White to play guitar, and my honest thing was like, I have no idea. Like, I think I can,
Yeah.
but I mean, I'll do my best.
Sure.
There's a lesson there, okay? Because knowing your stuff is immensely important when you're in high pressure situations. More than half of what being a musician is listening.
Man, totally. Dude,
Pleasure to be with you.
welcome.
Thanks
you,
for
my
having
friend.
me.
Oh my gosh, that was amazing, man. We kind of went from like, it was kind of Scotty Moore, and then we went to Billy Gibbons for a second.
Hey man, it's all in there.
It's all in there.
It's all part of the. It's all part of the soup.
Fantastic, my
The
friend.
gumbo.
My gosh. Everyone, Dinesh here from the Gibson Gear Guide, and I am sitting with a long-awaited guest here, Mr. JD Simo.
Man, thanks for having me. That's very kind of you to say.
My goodness.
Pleasure
Good to
finally
see
be
you.
here.
With the guitar right out of the box.
Yeah, right out of the box, and it's great.
Fantastic, man.
It's great. I was saying, like, I was impressed, like, because I like I like super high action. I haven't set the pickup height on this because that is a smoke a cigar and take a couple of hour process with me.
Well, and I saw you do it a little bit today.
A little bit.
So we had you play some guitars a little bit earlier for
Yeah.
us, and dude, so I noticed you brought in the little gauge, and you were setting up for higher action.
Yeah.
So I got to start off right there for a second. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, it's just I know what I like and
Yeah.
what I prefer, and I feel like it's strange, man, because like I go from, I go from sessions like half the time to, which can be here, or like Dave Cobb has his place in Savannah, so I'm in Savannah a lot, or I work in New York a lot, or LA, so I'm like flying around doing that, or then I like play my own shows with my own like revolving cast of people. Me and Luther Dickinson have a band together, so I go do stuff with him, and then I also play with this year I've been out playing with my buddy Chris Isaac.
Nice.
But like every incarnation, I'm always the guy that like everybody's like, hey JD, can you look at my guitar for me? Or like, can you look at my amp for me? I've just learned how to get what I want. I have that gauge just because I've learned over the years of like, if I'm gonna go like play a bunch of guitars that I'm not familiar with, it's like, number one, it's gonna help me get to know the guitar a little quicker, and also it's what I prefer. So it's like I'm gonna play better, and also it's like taking the time to stretch strings and stuff like that, like things that are kind of common sense.
I mean, I saw you do like about 10 guitars in like 20 minutes, so it was pretty impressive. So the funny thing is, I tried playing one of the guitars after, and there's this thing with action, like
it's very personal.
It's very personal. I know there's a set, there's like a way to set it to where it's kind of uniform for a bunch of different people.
Absolutely, yeah.
Wide range kind of thing, but you do like it higher. I mean, would you say that it makes a difference in the way a guitar sounds?
I personally, like it came first from like acoustics, where like working with amazing acoustic players like Brian Sutton and stuff, where it's like on acoustic guitars, higher action, they sound better. The string rings more free, and it just has a bigger, wider sound. And so it started there, where like on electric, I just, and I don't like it crazy high. Like I have friends like Tab Benoit or something that like crazy high that are like triple what mine is. But for, I would say, most working professionals, mine is definitely on the high side.
Yeah.
Like Bukovac and stuff like that, pick up my guitars and go, God, why do you do this?
And you are incorporating the slide a lot.
Yeah, so like the slide thing is definitely plays a part in it, but it's even guitars that I don't necessarily, like I have old arch tops. Like I have an old ES-5, 52 ES-5 I use a lot, that I don't really ever play slide on it, but it's still set up the same way.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I feel like the string doesn't slap against the fretboard, and it rings.
I definitely noticed on the bends, like it was like, it rings a little bit truer and a little bit bigger. Yeah. I get a little lazy, so I tend to keep mine a little low.
No, it's fine. It's not a macho thing. Like it's whatever works for you.
Right.
And that's just where I'm at. Like I'm very conscientious. Like I know whether it's with amplifiers or with the guitars, I'm pretty dialed into, because like Joe Glazier and Nick Druschel, and I've had really good like sort of mentor teachers.
Oh my gosh, dude! I took a guitar to Joe Glazier, and like it's never even played like that guitar. Like it's been a totally different instrument.
No, I mean he's a genius, and he's a dear friend. I mean,
nice guy.
We hang out on the weekends,
Yeah.
So it's anyway. My point being is like I've had the pleasure to learn from a lot of good people. So it's like I at least understand what I like.
Sure. With the stuff that you were playing and just watching you play some of the stuff earlier, I noticed, technique-wise, dude, your pinky does quite a bit.
Oh, I'm not even aware.
Yeah, I was watching. I mean, you're like bending other strings besides like the first top 3 strings, like with that little pinky. I don't know if you're noticing that.
No, I'm not. No.
I was like, very active pinky. This guy, very active pinky.
It's there to be used, I guess. I mean, with bending in particular, I mean, it's like there's, like most. I talk about this a lot.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised, like touring around. And like being dropped, like I said, I'm sort of parachuted in and out of lots of different musical scenarios, and it's amazing to me. The one is how few, like when I meet other musicians that are like professionals, like there's a certain amount of them like myself that are like just devour new music on a daily basis, and some that like don't even really listen to music that much, and I'm like, what? Like, what's wrong with you? Like, which is bizarre. And then the other is like the hand strength, like just decent hand strength to be able to bend to a note and hold there and not have it like waver, like just that. Yeah. Like how many like sort of do it and then they lose, So it's just having decent hand strength is kind of like
that's a good point.
Number one.
Yeah, because it comes up a lot about, especially with beginners, talking about like bending and vibrato. Like that's something for
the hardest thing.
Especially. Yeah. I mean, like you just said, like with keeping the note up there and like helping it ring out.
Yeah, like you should be able. That should not be an issue. Like you should be able to stay there forever. Like even after the note is done ringing, like it's like. I've just noticed like how there's like professional guitar players where I'm like looking at him and I'm like, God, like he like bailed on that like after a second because that's all he has, and it's just like again like at a certain level, everyone can do that, but it's just you know, that's something you can work on just sitting watching Netflix.
Sure.
You know, because there's nothing necessarily musical about it, and you don't even need to be amplified. You can just sit there with an instrument and it's like lifting weights, you know.
Right.
Because it's just the muscles in your hand, you know.
Yeah, and I was thinking about like vibrato in general, just as like it's almost like the insurance, like when you're playing pool, like to just chalk up between every shot or something.
Yeah.
Like when to use vibrato and like when not to use it.
Yeah.
But it's like, well, why not just have it there all the
Yeah,
time,
and I mean, you should have, you know, like, and this is a guitar I don't even know yet, but it's
Yeah.
like being able to hit several notes, like going all the way up to a 5. And then holding it. It'll be better once I set the pickup heights where it's like grabbing the note. But it's like, those are things you should have, you know. And all the notes in between there, because that's how you put English on a note.
Right.
And part of the thing that's really often like sort of overlooked, if you will, like, you know, like a player like Albert King or something, it's like he had like one lick that he mined, and by just shifting his phrasing slightly, you don't really get bored. Like, but like he has like one phrase that he worked from,
Right.
you know, that's harder, like, than having a bigger vocabulary. Like, it's what he did is actually harder, you know. And it's like that's the genius of a simplistic, more primal kind of player like that, is like how they say as much as they do with so little vocabulary.
Who are some of the players for you, like that inspired you, you know, in your early stages of playing? Like, who were the ones that you gravitated towards?
Well, the first two were Scotty Moore and Steve Cropper.
Nice.
So it was two different things. One was I saw Elvis on television. I was 4, and so Scotty Moore. So, you know. That's Her Mama, that kind of thing. And then like with Steve Cropper from Dock of the Bay. That kind of thing. Or there was a song called Bootleg. Where he's doubling Duck Done. Or, you know.
I was just gonna say, Time Is Tight. Yeah.
Where he's playing double stops.
That's hands down one of my favorite tunes, dude. That one.
All that.
My dad would play that on a 45 that we had. I remember that song very well. Yeah. I was gonna say about the Time Is Tight.
So, you know, that was my way in. So 2 Memphis guys. And I grew up in Chicago, and I was more influenced by like the music of Memphis. Because then shortly after that, like guys like, I didn't know who they were at the time, but like Reggie Young, who later became a really good friend, like Memphis Soul Stew, like King Curtis. He also played the.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, there you go.
Billy Ray was a preacher's son.
Dude, fantastic.
And he also did the. That is a bitch to play. Like, the fact that he did that with such good pocket. Is really impressive.
Dude, that's great.
But
I thought it was
anyway.
played a little bit different. Open
Well, James Burton played it like this.
Okay. Yes.
Except in tune. I'm out of tune. But he played it open. He played it the easy way.
Gotcha.
Reggie played it the hard way. But anyway, a lot of those guys and early rock and roll, and then I went through a big Beatle phase, and then got really into like blues, like in my late, sort of like right before I became a teenager, and that went a bunch of different ways. And like,
You were taking lessons?
I took lessons when I was like 5 for like a year and learned the mechanics. You know, had somebody help me sort of learn mechanics. But then it was just all listening to records and a big record collection. The records were really cheap in the early 90s, and so I could take allowance money. And
dude, you're right. Records were cheap.
No, it was like $1 or 50 cents. Yeah. Like, and I grew up on the north side of Chicago, on the corner of Armitage and Halstead. The building's still there, the apartment building, and you know, it was easy to, you know, whether going to the library, which we had an amazing, the Lincoln Park Library, and yeah, I just took records out and a bunch of other things. I'm skipping a bunch of stuff, but like I was one of those, you know, young kids, and I started playing in bars when I was like 8 and 9 years old.
Nice. Dude, so you mentioned the slide playing, and I was watching some of it today. Could you give us a little example of just how to be a clean slide player? Because I always struggle with how to not make it sound like there's like a rattling behind it. You know?
All of us struggle with that.
Yeah.
So what I say to people is, when you're first getting it going, first of all, just pick something, okay?
Okay, so glass, because metal, brass, whatever.
When you're learning, it's not going to matter at all, okay? Pick something and don't change it. Because if you think of this like a weight, like if you're in the gym and this is a weight, don't be changing it every 2 days. Like, you need consistency, right?
Sure.
So pick something that, for whatever reason, works. And same thing with the finger. If that feels more comfortable to you, then do that. If that feels comfortable, it doesn't matter.
Copy that, okay.
Pick it. So start with the inside strings. The G and the D string are the ones that are going to be the easiest to get to sound clean first, okay? Just being able to do that is kind of like step one, okay? And then what I would suggest, and this is if you're wanting to learn in standard tuning, which is, because my goal was I wanted to be able to just pick it out of my pocket whenever I want.
Yes.
And that's what I do at this point. So you start, like, that's a triad. So that's your D triad. So A, B, C, D. So pick one, you know. So you can like pick an easy lick like that. And pick stuff. And try and play what your fingers are doing. Eventually start to fan out and include the B string and the E. That's the E. The high E is the hardest thing to do is to be able to do that. You know, let alone. But one day you will do it. And you just gotta just sit there and I mean, I did that for months. And then when I first could do, I couldn't go up like Dwayne Allman, you know? So like, and it just gets gradually better. But if you start in the middle like that and try and, like, say you're playing a shuffle, like, you can get away without going up here in the very beginning. Like, you can make music, which is what I did for a while. But that's the best. And then this whole thing is,
I was going to ask you about that.
Everybody's different. So I always cup, because I'm always going back and forth between playing with my fingers or playing with a pick, that I just naturally cup it in, because I just use these fingers.
Those two, yeah.
And essentially you just want to dampen what notes you don't want it to ring,
and
which is a bitch.
With these two on that hand, or is it this hand?
I'm rarely dampening on this.
Hand?
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Usually I'm leaving it. Well, all right. So if I'm playing something like George Harrison.
Yeah.
Where I want it very precise and clean, then I will use those. But most of the time, I want the harmonics behind the bar to come through.
Yeah, sure.
But here I'm either using the side of my thumb to cover the strings I'm not, or I'm using my index finger if I'm down on a lower string, and I'm just cupping it where I'm covering the top string. So I'm either doing that or I'm doing that. That's what I do.
Gotcha.
Everybody, what works for one doesn't work for everyone.
That
so
makes
it's
total
like
sense.
but like right there, I'm holding all those, and I'm holding the high E with my index finger.
Okay.
Or if I'm like, I'm not having to worry about those, but
Sure.
I'm holding the outside ones. I'm holding the rest of the guitar, but I'm using. And it's like anything. It's like riding a bike. You just got to take your time.
Right. No, dude, that was great because you gave me the instant gratification for us with the D and the G.
Yes.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
And your action is a little bit higher anyways because you're incorporating the slide in a certain percentage of your playing. So
That's right.
You want that to always be there for you.
Yeah. I mean, it's a double-sided thing. Like I said, it's not specifically for that, but it definitely doesn't hurt.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. No, it's great because that's a great little lesson there on the slide stuff. Yeah, because that high E, man,
It's a bitch.
That's
It's a bitch. It takes a long time. It takes a long time, but just hang in there.
That's great. So we had some guitars that you were playing for us today, some exclusive guitars, and I heard you talking about the guitars and their lineages, and you seem you're privy to the vintage guitars.
Very much.
What is it that what's your mindset like with gear in general? Are you like one of those that are like, it's just the tools that I need for each particular job? Are you collecting? What's your approach on like obtaining gear and kind of curating it?
I'm not a collector at all. I hover generally between 9 and 10 instruments that are like in rotation, of which there's usually like 2 or 3 of them that I'm using for everything. I'm a minimalist, completely. I generally, I've been using Princeton's as an amp for several years now. Nothing but.
Yeah.
I have certain ones I fly with, and I use, and that just works for virtually 100% of everything that I end up working on. And then there's a handful of guitars that are the same thing that always work for me. And for me, they're definitely tools. I'm not precious. I've got some very, very valuable vintage guitars that are just beat to piss, that I've had for years, and some I haven't, but I don't mind. I fly with them. I use them. They're my guitars.
Cool. Yeah.
And pay insurance on them, and I don't see, with nowadays, with Calton cases and air tags and all that kind of stuff, like things are a lot easier than they ever were.
Right.
With like me not having anxiety about it, And if it's something that's particularly close to me or something like that, I just have it in a gig bag and it's with me. Like, there's one guitar in particular that I won't, like I'll when we're done with the show, like I grab it and it's on the bus with me in the junk bunk or something.
Right.
And it's like, or if we're flying, it's like, don't worry about it, I got it.
Yeah. Something I like to ask, people that do a lot of session studio work, there's always this stigma of you having to be this Swiss Army knife.
Yeah.
Right? And then there's also...
Which is true.
Right, there's that Swiss Army knife thing, like Wrecking Crew kind of thing where, it's
Absolutely.
like, this is the day of, this is what you're doing, get something on there. And then there's also we want so-and-so on this because we want so-and-so's sound that they bring to the table to the sound, or to the song, I would say. Would you say that there's a balance? Would you say that there's one over the other? Like, what's your
I think experience? My experience is that you do need a really good recall for vibe, or like you learn, every producer that you work with, you learn their language, okay? And because one producer might make a reference to a certain record or a certain artist or something like that, and it's like, I want it like such and such, and then you find out through trial and error that they didn't mean that at all. They actually meant such and such. So like you learn somebody's language. Like Dave Cobb, one of the many reasons why we've worked together for many years now, is I understand every single reference he shoots at me, because he's a total, like me, he's a total audiophile and a total nerd about the origins of everything. And so he can say something very esoteric and I know exactly what he's talking about, because we both are nerds for the same thing. But I would say that, you know, more than anything, you just need to have that awareness in your music, going back to the music listening part. Like, you should be well versed and you know, not necessarily, I don't think it should be inauthentic. I don't think it should be anything that is something that you don't enjoy. Yeah. But I think that it just, you know, it's going to make you a better musician if you're drawing from a wider palette. And it's never been easier. You know, when I was 10 years old in the 90s learning, you know, like playing, you know, I remember, like I'm sure you and many other people that are watching remember, like ordering records from wherever, like because somebody said the name Ry Cooder and I couldn't find a Ry Cooder record, or somebody mentioned Captain Beefheart and I never did. And so then it's like the anticipation of waiting for this thing to arrive and have no idea what it's going to be like, where nowadays you can access one's entire catalog that they've ever released instantly. Yeah. And it's like, so in a way it's like there's no excuse to have like lack of depth, lack of awareness, but it's also very difficult because algorithms point you towards the thing that you were just listening to. So it takes more effort, but I think that, you know, I love it, like, because on a daily, you know, I'm a big coffee snob, and so it's like I'll get up in the morning and take the kiddo to school or whatever, and when I'm home, and I try and listen to something new every day that I haven't heard. Cool. And because I can't get over how easy it is, like, because it is, you know. Right. But anyway, to circle back to finish the question that you asked about like session playing, like I feel like I know for a fact, like most of my heroes had a very small arsenal of instruments, but they knew those instruments very well. They knew how to use them in a multitude of different contexts. Yeah. There's a lesson there, okay? Because knowing your stuff and knowing how to get the most out of it is immensely important when you're in high pressure situations. Right. Because if you're in tune with what you're using and something is being finicky or whatever, your ability to deal with it, you know, because stressful situations are hard enough. Yeah. You know? So it's like there is an element of beauty in like having your handful of tools that you really know well, and it's like just let your hands do the thing that's different. Yes. You know, because that is pretty much across the board, you know. I mean, because you're only talking about like the last 30 years that having tons of options really came into play. Absolutely. And so yeah, I would say less of a like know your instruments well and have a really good database up here and always be building it would be my.
No, that makes total sense. I've watched you for many years now play, and a lot of times you're just straight into an amplifier.
Most of the time, yeah. And
that always blows my mind because, you know, we live in the age of pedal stomp box galore, and it's like the, you know, it's there's a lot of ways to manipulate the sound of a guitar.
Yeah. And when you have a really good one, and you have a good amp, like, you know, great uses of effects. Like I think of someone like Dave Gilmour, where it's like he had great sounding equipment and great sounding hands, and he came up with cool parts, and then he used effects to only enhance and make better.
You still had core guitar sounds.
Yeah, but it's like, but he was using them to enhance something that was already great. Right. And I think that, you know, Hendrix, same way, you know, like the original people that used a couple of effects, you know. Definitely, like, you know, never use a piece of equipment as a crutch. Use it as a thing to enhance what's already there.
Totally. If you have a second to show me, because I've seen you get quite a few sounds out of a guitar, could you kind of give us a little bit of example? Sure. I heard country twang out of this thing. I heard jazz box. I mean, I heard quite a few things out of a 335.
Oh yeah. Well, instrument with first of all, 335s are super versatile. Yeah. More so than most. I think people, especially session guys, have really kind of, you look at the lineage of like guys who used, 335s. Like, you know, here in Nashville, you had like Jerry Kennedy, who like played. And he was, there's three guitar players on that, but he's playing his 335. But obviously later on you had Larry Carlton and all this stuff, but it's like in modern times, Bukovac and many others. But yeah, no, so first and foremost, like your pick position, so obviously closer to the bridge is going to be more snappy and actually kind of more sort of 50s sounding. Or like I would think like if we want to go there, which I do right now.
Do it.
You know. Or Dwayne Eddy.
Fantastic.
So that being said, you know, the same thing is going to apply to the bridge pickup, you know. So like early BB King, pre-vibrato, like 50s BB King. Where it like chokes a little bit and it sounds more like you're playing a jazz box. Then sort of the middle would be more of a, and I should also say like in the middle position, back by the bridge, like if you're gonna play like Catfish Collins. That kind of thing, playing back there, which is good, and the nylon saddles actually are good for that.
I was gonna say, it sounds a lot brighter and like almost single coil quality with some of the stuff.
Exactly. So that's all just playing back by the bridge. Then, you know, on the other side of it, you know, if you darken the guitar, I use my tone pots on every guitar.
Okay.
A lot. So usually I'm always running them down a notch or two just to take a little bit of, because I would rather set the amp brighter, because harmonics like brightness.
Okay.
I've found. And so it's like I'll set the amp brighter, but then use my tone controls to make it where it doesn't sound like shit.
Yeah, that's great.
So if we turn, like, most jazz records are not very reverb laden. So one, I'm picking closer to neck. But there's like, the note hangs and like there's a little bit of fur around it, you know. Or like Grant Green, sort of. That kind of thing.
Wow, that just was a huge difference when you went from here to here. It almost sounded like you switched pickups.
Exactly. And so it's like that, learning that and just kind of using it, it becomes intuitive, because that's, you know, so like a low note I want to be more staccato. And I maybe want a note like that to be, I'm nervous, so I'm not playing as good, but where it'll be fatter and it'll hang on more.
Dude, I like the fact too that you lose some of the attack.
Yeah.
And it's just softer. I mean, it sounds like it just gets more, a little more.
Totally.
It's great.
And then, you know, using your fingers, especially like John Lee Hooker is one of my favorite. where it's like you're actually playing on the neck of the instrument. Where I'm using the treble pickup, but it's like it becomes a spongier kind of instrument when you're playing like a more rustic kind of style. I'm trying to think if there's a... And then of course with slide, I'm always playing with my fingers. I never play slide with a pick.
With a pick, okay.
And then yeah, I mean, it's like if you're wanting to play, you know, more of like a chicken picking thing, which people, you know... Like using the palm of your hand to mute, which you would on a T-style guitar.
Yes.
Yeah,
and you've got the volume on the bridge a little lower, yeah?
Yeah, like 2.5.
Yeah,
like,
that's great.
I rarely, here's the thing, I always set my amps, no matter what I'm playing through, I'll set them almost wide open. Usually all the way wide open, there's like a choke that happens. So usually there's some place like on old or new black panel amps or whatever, like it'll, between 8 and 9, you can hear it. Like you wind it up and do like a big bend like that, and it's like it'll like either choke or it'll be like nice and true and fat.
Yeah. And
so like I'll set it there, but I'm rarely ever up above 5 or 6 here.
On the volume?
No.
Oh wow.
I don't think I don't think it sounds the best. To me, I like when guitars are, I like when the amp is open.
Okay.
But then between your dynamics and your volume,
you've got some space.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
I just feel, and then like if I'm playing slide and I need more gain, it's there if I need it.
Got
you know
it.
what I mean?
So there's more range there, and you're in control of the headroom at this point.
Yeah, and I just feel, I don't know, it just works for me, and that's also like, it's not a new thing. Like, you know, that's like all of our heroes for the most part. Like it's a very similar how they set their stuff. You know?
Dude, that is great. A lot of great insights, man. No, that's fantastic. Thank you.
My pleasure.
That is very useful for all of us. One thing I wanted to ask you as well, I think we covered it in some other things that you were talking about with me earlier. You know, just a word of advice to beginners, people that are starting off, that, like you said, there's a bunch of stuff out there where I've come across people that, you know, they've got bits and pieces of songs, but maybe can't put it all together, and then maybe it's hard to kind of like latch on to what to do first. We're in a society of like instant results.
Yeah,
so
which is the opposite.
To sit there and just be like, you know, I've got to practice something over and over again until I get that muscle memory before I can get to something else.
It's a total, so like I said in one of the things earlier that we cut, like in the last year, like I've never like taught in my life. Like once in a blue moon, somebody would ask me to like give them a private lesson, and once in a blue moon, I'd be like, you know what? Okay, yeah, sure, because because it made sense, and or I was available, or it was like, oh yeah, I'll hop on. I can hop on Zoom with you next week or something. But it's not something that I've ever done, and it's not something that I like think of myself as. But like last year, working on the Springsteen movie, they asked me, you know, in my many duties, asked if I would teach Jeremy Allen White to play guitar. And my honest thing was like, I have no idea. Like, I think I can.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'll do my best, you
Sure.
know? And so like, I had to like really step back like a lot, because I understood like the pressure of wanting to set him up to win. And, you know, it just became evident very quickly that it's like, there's no fast way. Like, and I just like, I think it was like the first week of us working together, or second week or something, where I just was like, dude, I just want to be honest with you and just say that it's all on you and how many hours you're going to put into it,
Sure.
like, because I was like, there, you will sit as a guitar player, you will sit and, you know, like you will sit and play a phrase not even that long for days.
Yeah.
For days.
Yeah.
And like a total lunatic, like a psycho. And then it finally clicks, and it finally you can do it. And then you got to move it around and figure out how to apply it to a bunch of different keys and all this stuff. So like the application process of like learning one nugget then opens up into a bunch. So it's like, it's not to overwhelm, like I didn't mean it to overwhelm him or overwhelm one of you watching, but it's just like that awareness that it's like, it's an ocean.
Right.
Like, just relax and like take it one step at a time, because the better your foundation is, the better your going back to things we've talked about, the better your hand strength is and your you know, finger control is, and the better you know how to use the least amount of vocabulary and be able to actually make music with it, it's only going to make you that much better. Because if you start stacking a bunch of stuff on top, you know, you're just making a shit sandwich. Like it's not gonna end up. You're not doing yourself any favor. You're actually doing yourself a disservice. Where it's like, if anything, you're going to have to unlearn something to be able to right the wrongs of it.
Yeah.
You know? It's like your ability to sit, like I always say, practice to records. Like because practicing is boring, okay? Like it's boring. But like I, as a musician, like I'll sit and play along to records I like one of my I think I played it at one point today, but there's a song, with me, I'm always trying to be conscientious of my pocket, because it's a life's work to have pocket that is decent, let alone great.
Right.
And so like Meters records in particular are just, they feel so incredible. And so like there's one, Tippy Toes. Like just doing that, playing along to records that you enjoy, but it's like then you're also playing to another human being.
And it's on time.
Right.
Now you've got timing with the band.
Right. And it's the kind of time you want.
Yeah.
It's not, you know, because I do, you know, like Tommy Emmanuel is a really good friend, and it's like he sits and practices with a metronome, and he is God's own guitar player. Mm-hmm. Obviously that works as well.
Yes, yes.
It's just I prefer to.
I enjoyed the playing to a song too.
Yeah.
And then like trying to get to that place where it sounds like it's now melting into the song.
Right.
You know, not just because you've adjusted your volume.
Right.
But like now you're like, oh, that does sound like it's part of the song now, instead of why is it rubbing or sticking out timing wise or pitch wise. And that's awesome. No, that's great. Totally. No, appreciate that. That's and that develops the ear at the same time.
Well, yeah, and that's a big thing. You know, I've seen, me and Bonamassa have talked at length about that, you know, like people that are, because I just turned 40, so it's like I'm no longer, my whole life was always the kid. I was always the kid that, you know, and so like up here I'm still, now I understand, like when I was a kid and people were like, I used to be the kid, like I understand the weird dichotomy of like, why are you asking my advice? Mm-hmm. Like and it's like, oh yeah, I'm not 20 anymore. Sure. But anyway, like me and Bonamassa and some other people that are around my age group have talked about this. Adam Levy, who's a really good friend, amazing guitar player, about the difference between like the generation who's learned through visual means versus every other generation that predated it. Like, because I'm technically a millennial. Mm-hmm. I because of the way my parents raised me, I kind of feel more like a Gen Xer, because you know, it's like we didn't have a computer because my dad thought they were the devil and or whatever, and you know, like we had a record player, we never had a CD player, you know, all that kind of stuff. So but that being said, it's like I feel like going online and like watching a video of somebody playing something, like it's a good way to double check yourself.
Sure.
But it's like, man, learn it from listening to it, please.
Right.
Because it robs you of so much.
Yeah.
Like in your ability, like we've gotten to a point now where there's like a generation or two that have had a mostly visual-based learning, and you can hear it. You can hear the difference. And whereas when there is a player like my buddy Daniel Donato, who's a really dear friend who I've known forever, and took my place in the Don Kelly band, like, you know, when you hear someone who didn't learn that way, who learned like everyone, like I did and everyone before us did, like it stands out.
Sure.
Where it's like, oh man, that's, you know, or Marcus King, you know, or something like
Great
that. Like,
yeah.
you know, like you can hear it.
Yes.
You know, and so yeah, please, like you use it as a way to double check yourself, but do it the hard way. Listen to it and find it.
Yeah, paying the dues that way.
Yeah, and I mean, like, and you're doing ear training. You don't even know you're doing it, but you're doing ear training, and it's like that's more than half of what being a musician is listening.
Man, totally. That words of wisdom right there for sure. Last thing I want to close out with, because I know we're running out of time here. You're on the road coming up soon. Yeah,
I have. Me and Luther Dickinson have a band together, which was by accident, and so we're doing a bunch of dates. Most of them are festival dates. Like we're doing Telluride this year.
Oh, cool.
And there's a couple other big ones, but yeah, we have some dates coming up, and then I have a handful that I'm doing like in October or something, in between all the other stuff that I'm doing. It's my touring is starting to become more of my vacation from where it's like, oh, I'm gonna go play whatever I feel like doing.
Yeah, that's great, man.
But yeah, there's some, you just Google my name, it'll come up.
Very cool.
And otherwise, yeah, I'm out. I'm gonna be out playing with Chris Isaac.
Nice.
We've got a tour starting most of the summer, and then we have a holiday tour that he always does, which is fun. So, you know, I'm actually going out to dinner with him later. That's for you, Chris.
That's awesome. That's great. That's great. Oh, man, that's killer. Well, man, JD, thank you so much for taking the time.
My pleasure.
Being here with us.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, man, and I enjoyed hearing you play many guitars today, my friend, and watching you set up many guitars within seconds was fantastic. So, well, everyone, Dinesh here from the Gibson Gear Guide, again, with my good friend, Mr. JD Simo. JD, thank you again, my friend.
Honor and a pressure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, man. Thank you. We'll see you guys.
Do one for Matt Kaler.
Fantastic. Dude, killer.